It all started when it arrived in the mail. There was a package waiting for me on the dining room table. My name, emblazoned in bright red ink, called to me from across the room. I could not help myself. I tore the box open and looked inside. There was a doll. It looked very old. It had stringy blonde hair, black eyes, blush on its cheeks, ruby red lips, and of course, a black dress. It was made of wood. I do not know what kind of wood, but it looked very old. It had a very creepy feel to it. My skin seemed to get clammy as I left the doll out of the box. The doll felt ice cold to my touch, almost like it was sucking the heat out of my body. I called out to my mother to ask her who had sent it. My mother yelled from the kitchen that she didn't know. Letting my eyes fall onto the doll's face, it seemed like it was smiling at me. That night I placed the doll on a dresser next to my bed, and I prepared to go to bed. I went to brush my teeth, and as I pressed the minty toothpaste into my mouth, my mind drifted onto the mysterious doll. Lost in thought about who had sent me the doll, I thought I heard a little girl's voice say, "Hi, my name's Samantha. Do you want to play?" Dropping the toothbrush, I whipped my head around to look in the mirror to see if I could see where the voice had come from. There was nothing. I finished up and I went back into my room to get ready to sleep. I noticed the doll was not on the dresser where I'd left her, but she was sitting on the bed, resting, with her back against my pillow. Surely I put the doll on the dresser. Reaching down, I picked up the doll, and it still felt ice cold to my touch. Placing it onto my dresser, I whispered, "Now you stay there. I am going to bed." Pulling the sheets back, I climbed into my bed. The cold sheets stung my legs as I got in. It was winter, so it was always painful to get in until the sheets had warmed up. The fog of sleep was almost upon me. I felt warm and fuzzy like nothing could stop me from dreaming. "Good night, darling," came a childish voice. "Am I dreaming?" I asked as I walked on the soft green grass. The blade sprang up between my toes as I walked, making me giggle as it tickled my feet. Overhead I could see an old iron gate. On either side was a large stone wall made of grey granite. It was large and imposing, almost like I was not meant to go there. Placing my hand on the gate, I pushed it with all my might, and with some resistance, it started to open. The groaning and creaking of the rusted hinges sung out as it gave way. Step after step, I ventured forth. In front of my eyes was a cemetery. There was large tombstones blocking my path. Winding my way through the graves, I went ever deeper into the dark graveyard. In the distance, there was the sound of a little girl giggling. Turning my attention to the sound, I walked towards it. The girl sounded like she was having so much fun, and I was so looking forward to playing with her. Rounding the tombstone, there was a little girl standing in front of a fresh grave. Her long blonde hair cascaded over her shoulders down to her waist. She was wearing a long, black mourning dress, made of the finest cotton and lace. The girl turned to face me. Her eyes were jet black in colour, like obsidian. Her lips were cherry red, and she looked no older than 14 years old. "Come here and see," she yelled to me. I strode over to the girl and looked into the grave. There was a black coffin in the ground. Its lid was open, and I could see the red velvet lining inside. "Why didn't you want to play with me?" I turned my head to look at the girl, but she was gone. I felt something press hard into my back. It took me a moment to realise I was falling into the grave. There was a loud bang as I landed in the coffin. Scrambling, I managed to get onto my back, and there was the girl standing beside the coffin. "You should have played with me." She reached up, grasped the lid of the coffin. Her white skin seemed to glow in the sunlight, and she started laughing as she slammed the lid closed. "Samantha!" Those were the first words that escaped my mouth as I screamed. The world slowly came back into sight, and I felt something heavy sitting on my chest. Reaching out into the darkness, I felt something ice cold. Pain flared up in my hand as I snatched it back. I fumbled in the dark next to my bed until I found it. There was a click. I switched on the lamp. The room flared into light. I squinted against the brightness. Sitting on my blanket over my chest was the doll. Its red lips were smiling sweetly at me. I heard a soft giggle in the room. Reaching up, I grabbed the doll and I flung it across the room. It hit the wall with a solid whack before it slid to the floor. The pain in my hand was getting worse. Looking down, there was 3 little scratch marks and blood was dripping onto the back of my hand. Tears were starting to well up in my eyes. What was going on? Looking over to where I threw the doll, all I saw was empty space. Yanking off the blanket, I leapt out of the bed, and as soon as my foot hit the floor, there was a white, hot, burning sensation. I could not hold my weight on my leg. The world rushed up to meet me. I put my hands out to break my fall. There was a loud snapping sound, and more pain shooting up my arm as my wrist broke. Crying out in pain, I called out for my mother, begging and pleading for her to come and help me. "She'll not come to save you. I cut her head off," came a voice from under the bed. It didn't sound like a little girl anymore. It was guttural, and it was like an animal growling. "So do you want to play now?" Something grabbed hold of my leg. Its long talons dug into my flesh. I screamed as I smelt flesh burning. Looking down towards the bed, there was a pair of glowing red eyes staring back at me. The hand that was grasping my leg was snow white. Its fingers were pushing deeper into my leg. Pulling my other leg back, I started kicking at the white hand. The pain started to vanish as I kicked it again and again. It released its grip, and I pushed myself away from the bed. Somehow I managed to get to my feet and limp towards the door. "Where are you going?" "I haven't finished playing yet." Grabbing the door, I pulled it open and almost fell through it. Looking back into the room, the girl from my dream was poking her head out from under my bed. "Come back here," she screamed. Slamming the door, I stumbled towards my mother's room. There was a red liquid seeping out from under the door. Seeing that, I was too scared to open it. "Let's play hide and seek," came a growl from behind me. Still not able to walk properly, I kept limping towards the front door. "Ready or not, here I come." Wrapping my fingers around the door handle, I tried to open it, but the handle would not move. Balling out my fists, I started hitting the door and screaming for help. "I found you." Something sharp pierced my back. It felt like something small had been pushed through my body. All my strength left my body. My legs gave out, and I slid down the door until I was laying on the floor. I felt something small walking on my back. I knew it was her, but I was so weak, I just didn't care anymore. As the warmth left my body, I was ready to leave this world. Something didn't feel right. I could see myself laying on the ground, and the doll was sitting on my back. Her little hand was holding me, but how? I had left my body. "Come inside. Live with me. Inside." I could no longer move, but my eyes were focused on a small wooden hand. My heart sunk. I realized it was my wooden hand. I am surrounded by darkness. How long has it been since I was brought to this hell? The smell of mold is so strong in the air. I can feel its greasy tendrils growing on my skin now. The air is wet and warm, making it incredibly humid and uncomfortable. I am covered in my own sickly smelling sweat. It stings my nose each time I breathe. I am not sure when he took me, but it was a moonless night and I was walking back to my dormitory room. The wireless headphones sat snugly in my ears, blasting music. I was a fool. I should not have been walking with them in, but I wanted to block out the world. I'd had a hard day. I received an assignment back from my psych lecturer and it was a failing grade. I've not been focusing well these last few weeks. There has been an unsettling feeling in my stomach. Something was wrong, but I was not sensitive enough to figure it out. I would see a shadow in my periphery as I walked around the campus. It always seemed to vanish when I turned to look at it. When I held it in my gaze for a moment, it seemed to be taller than the average man. It had a large stature, not unlike a bodybuilder. But it would always vanish if I held it in my sight for longer than a few seconds. This figure seemed to be always watching me wherever I was at school. I wanted to tell my friends about it, but each time I tried, I stopped. I knew that they would think that I was being an attention seeker, or I was just damn crazy. My one golden ray of light was a guy that I met in one of my classes. His name was Vic. He was very tall, and he was also of Mediterranean descent. He had dark chestnut hair that was about shoulder length, and he always made me smile. We'd been hanging out for a few weeks now, and things were starting to get serious, because he always seemed to be on my mind. Maybe that didn't help, the failing grades, my failings with Vic, and those damn headphones. I took the shortcut across the park, and at this time of night there was no one here, and the children's swings stood very still. They seemed to long to have someone playing with them. The park was not well lit, and it was hard following the cement path, but I managed to stay on it. I didn't even notice the son of a bitch sneak up on me. His hands ripped around my torso and mouth, lifting me off the ground, thrashing my legs, trying to kick back against this man. A few kicks made contact, and there was a loud grunt. His hand had something soft over my mouth. It stunk. I couldn't tell what it was, but it made it hard to breathe. Every breath was an effort. My body started to fight against me. I commanded it to fight, but my arms and legs wouldn't listen. My fingers grabbed at his hand feebly, and I was struggling to move them. The dark world was starting to get darker, and I could feel my eyes starting to close. Oh God, no, please no. Eventually, I came to, and I found myself in that dark room. I hear him in the dark whispering to me, and that he's been waiting for me, and he's been waiting for the right time to take me. His tongue always seems to dance along my ear as he speaks. The voice doesn't sound human. It sounds like the cross between a man and a dog growling. He is always talking. His voice never lets me rest. How long has it been since I slept? But his presence never leaves me. I can feel him next to me, almost like his scaly skin is pressing against mine. It is cold to the touch. Each time I try to push him away from me, my hands find nothingness. Time has no meaning here in the dark. I can only guess how long I've been down here. For the first time, something sounds different. His voice has gone quiet. It is nice to have this reprieve, but I can hear heavy footsteps coming towards me. No, they're not coming towards me. They're above me. It sounds like boots walking on a wooden floor. They seem to be getting closer. They are no longer above me, but are descending downstairs. The steps approaching me, slow and deliberate, as they know their way through this dark hell. Light explodes into my eyes and I hear a click. The world has suddenly changed from darkness to pure white. The pain radiates throughout my mind like someone has pushed burning cigarettes into my eyes. Hello, Melissa. It's been a few days since I saw you. How are you liking your new home? I know that voice. Vic, is that you? What the hell's happening? There was silence. The pain in my eyes was unbearable. The room started to come into focus, but I couldn't see Vic anywhere. Turning my head from side to side, searching desperately for him, my eyes locked onto him. He was sitting in a chair beside me. He had the most unnerving smile on his face. His eyes looked wild, like he was planning something that no human should be thinking about. Ah, Mel. You know the reason why you're here, right? No, of course you don't. You have no idea at all. You are here because of him. He wanted you here, and that's why I became close to you. Vic's voice was emotionless, without even a hint of humanity. Vic, what are you talking about? Please let me go. Please, Vic, stop this madness, for God's sake. God, you say? If God loved you, then why are you here? You are here because someone else loves you more than God. He laughed at me. What do you mean? I stammered. I am his servant. He ordered me to come and find you. You are his birthright. You, Mel, were promised to him. He is here to take what is his. I didn't know what to say anymore. This was madness. Vic got up and started walking towards me. Vic, get away from me, you creep! I screamed as loud as I could. As he approached, I noticed he had something in his hand. He had a piece of barbed wire. As he saw me staring at it, he started laughing again. Come on, Mel. It is time for you to be bound to him. With that, he was on me before I could struggle. Vic grabbed my hands and forced my arms together, and he started wrapping the barbed wire around my wrists. The barbed wire dug into my skin, rupturing it. Blood started leaking out of my arms. The pain was immense. The barbs felt like they were not ripping my skin, but were burning me. With these bonds I give you to him. You are his, he screamed towards the heavens as his voice boomed unnaturally. The barbs started glowing white under my skin. It felt like they were merging with me and going deep into my body. The white-hot heat was traveling throughout my arms and into my chest. A burst of pain shot out of my heart as the wire wrapped around it. All I could do was scream and scream. The pain would not abate. My mind must have broken 1,000,000 times due to the agony that I was experiencing. Tears were streaming down my face. I could make out a blurry Vic. He was laughing and dancing around like a madman. My skin was breaking, and I could feel the barbs escaping all over my body. Barbs were covering me from my head down to the bottom of my feet. Where my fingernails were, there were only metal spikes coming out. Crack! Vic was kneeling in front of me. His head was facing the opposite way. An obsidian-coloured hand was on top of Vic's head, holding it. Its red nails dug deep into his skull. I should have been afraid, but I could not feel fear anymore. It had all evaporated as I was bound to him. Looking up from the hand, my gaze was met with a man with pale white skin, dark black hair with a pointed goatee. His eyes, they were completely black. There were no other colour but the abyss. He smiled at me, showing his pointed teeth. It is nice to see you, darling. You are even more beautiful than I imagined. You belong to me. You were promised to me by your mother. I came to her many years ago. She called me from my icy slumber to grant her desires. In return, she promised you to me, my dear Ben-Sozia. It took me a few moments to realize what he was saying. Deep down in my soul, I knew this man, but he was not a man at all. I opened my mouth to speak. I could feel the metal barbs ripping through my tongue as I spoke. Vistus, you have found me. Let's go and say thank you to Mother Dearest. I need to thank her personally for this gift she gave me. He reached down and took my hand. It was ice cold to the touch. It chilled my burning hot skin. It's time to go, my love. Hi, Mike here. I hope you enjoyed today's lullabies. If you enjoy my content, please like, comment, and subscribe. If you want to hear more creepy tales, please let me know in the comments down below. And remember, keep watching for what's in the dark.